Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be working on a project for a holiday that is coming up that we celebrate here in America. That is one of those holidays that's kind of silly, and it's something that started as a tradition that we just kind of continue, even though it doesn't really make sense. And that holiday is Groundhog's Day. So I have a lot of books here, you can see. I actually like Groundhog Day because I love animals so much. If I wasn't a teacher, I'd probably do something with animals. Since I love animals, I love learning about animals, and I just enjoy them in general. But I like Groundhog Day because it's really a silly holiday that doesn't really make a lot of sense, but it's still fun. So these are different books I have that I was looking at, and like I said, I like Groundhog Day. I like to celebrate it. I think it's just one of those fun, silly little holidays that we have. And you can see there are lots of different books. So there's lots of books like this one, which is a nonfiction, meaning it's real, or it actually explains different things about Groundhog Day. You can see an actual photograph of a groundhog and what it's about and what it means and how we celebrate it. So I have a few like that are, like I said, they're nonfiction, meaning they're true. And then there's even this one that it looks like a fiction book because it's a drawing, but it actually has a lot of different facts and things about groundhogs. That's also kind of neat. And then I have lots of books that are just fiction or make-believe. They're ones that aren't really true stories, but they're based off of Groundhog and the Groundhog's Day and things you can do. So I have quite a few that throughout the years, I really like reading, like Substitute Groundhog, Groundhog's Dilemma. This is one that I think I actually read when I was little. It's called It's Groundhog's Day. I also read this one when I was little. Groundhog Day by Betsy Lewin. It's a good one. It's an easy one to read. Then there's newer ones like Go to Sleep Groundhog. And this is one that I actually like the past few years. I really liked reading is Groundhog's Day Off. And it's really funny because the groundhog decides it wants the day off and it doesn't want to do its job anymore. This is one that's also a really silly one. Groundhog gets it wrong because, in case you didn't know, Groundhog predicts if it's going to actually be winter or spring, which if you know anything, you know that the groundhogs really can't predict that. But it's a fun tradition. Here's another one where it's called Double Trouble Groundhog Day. The secret of the first one up, because groundhogs are the ones that get up. So lots and lots of different books. However, there's a new one that I found. It might not be super new, but I found it recently and I absolutely love this one. And it's called Groundhog Weather School. And I really like this book because not only is it silly and goofy and it has really funny drawings, kind of like these ones where there's the fiction book where it's Groundhog Gets It Wrong. It's all illustrated. The other cool thing about this book, though, that I really like about it is it looks like a silly book. It is really silly when you read it. They have silly things in here, but it's also actually like a nonfiction book. So it's real. It has a lot of facts about groundhogs and Groundhog Day, and actually some other animals as well, and weather that are real, just like this book. So it's a mixture of both fiction and nonfiction a little bit, and I really like that because not only do you get to read about the groundhogs and you get to see the silly things and the silly characters, but it's also actually giving us real information and facts that are true. So it's a really fun book to read. Like I said, it's new for me. I haven't read it before. This was the first year I saw it. And it's called Groundhog Weather School by Joan Holub. It's really silly. It's very fun. You can see it almost kind of looks like part of it looks like a comic book kind of. It has all different types of drawings and illustrations. Like I said, a lot of the information here is actually true. It's factual. So I really liked it. And I decided, why not do a fun Groundhog Day craft and do an art lesson, but also get to learn about groundhog and write down some information we can learn about them at the same time. So today's craft, or art that we're going to be doing, is both going to be writing and art and science, and it's all a lot of fun. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what you're going to need. If you have not read this book, I highly suggest you do. It's a very funny book, and you'll get a lot of information without realizing that you're actually learning and doing it. What we're going to be making today is, like I said, a mixture of some science and some arts and fun little information about groundhogs. So we're going to be making a groundhog. And in case you didn't know, the groundhog that we all watch in America is called Phil, and he lives in Pennsylvania, I believe. And he's very fat if you've never seen him. Groundhogs are so chubby, I love them. So we're gonna actually be making the groundhog, and I will show you the other pieces. These are actually all facts about groundhogs that I learned from Groundhog Weather School. So what you will need if you are going to be doing this and you want to make it with all the facts just like this, you're going to need a very large piece of paper. I chose green. It could really be any color you want. My choice was green for this activity. You're going to also need all our different cuts. So you can see this is a very large piece of green paper. I also have a brown square, a brown rectangle, another brown rectangle, that one's a little bit bigger, and then a tiny brown rectangle. There's also a black rectangle that is large, a small black rectangle, a black square, and then 2 white rectangles. And like I said, from all these, we are going to be making our groundhog. I'm also going to need scissors and a glue stick. If you are doing the writing part, we will also need the pages with the writing. There are different kinds and different levels of writing, as well as a note page, which you can use while reading the book, Groundhog Weather School, and record notes and ideas down about what you would like to write. Another thing you can also do, if you do not want to do it with the writing parts, with our information, you can also just make the groundhog. And you would need all the cuts, and instead of a large piece of paper, like this big green one, you would actually only need one that's in half of it. And you can just put the groundhog in the middle of that. Also an option. All right, once you've gathered all your supplies, we're gonna go ahead and get started with our cuts. So, move that. And I don't need, like I said, I don't need this big green paper yet. This is going to be my background for when I am done. That can be set aside for later. What you will need is all our little cuts, and you can find all the cuts and the information and information about all the books in the link below. And you can follow along into this. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pieces that I'm going to be cutting and turning into my groundhog, and then my background paper. I'm gonna start with my actual brown pieces, which is like the body of our groundhog. And we have 4 different brown pieces that we are going to be using. I'm gonna start with my square because, like I said, most of these I'm actually going to be doing very similar cuts. I just have different shapes and different sizes, but we're going to pretty much do the same exact thing on most of these. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making the head out of this square. I'm going to get my scissors, and what you do is I'm going to take my square and I'm just going to cut a diagonal across each corner. You'll see it's cutting off triangles. So I now have a stop sign. And what we're going to be doing is I do it this way, so that way I don't lose a lot of my shape. I want my circle to still be pretty big, and this is an easy way to do it without losing how big it is. So now with this, what I'm going to do is, you can see I have corners again. Instead of 4, I have 8. I'm going to do the same thing, but each time I go around, I am going to cut it off just a little less. So last time you saw I cut a big triangle straight across. This time I'm going to do the same thing. So there's a corner I'm going to cut across, but you can see it's a much smaller triangle. I'm going to do that around the whole thing. So you can see I did that again, and it's starting to look more round. You can still see some points, and that's normal. What we're going to do is same exact thing, and we're going to make it even smaller than these triangles, and you're going to notice that's going to start to look more round. And I'm pretty happy with mine. If you look at yours and there's any that you still kind of see a point, like right there I see one, I'm just going to go back and again just really thinly cut that straight across, and you're going to see it makes it pretty round. And the neat thing about this, like I said, is that this is actually very close to the size of the square I cut. So my circle is about the same size I want it. So now what I'm going to do is set that aside, and we are going to do our next one. We're going to grab our 2 rectangles, and you'll see one is bigger, one is shorter. I'm going to get the smaller of the 2, set aside that big one for right now. And we're going to take this, and what we're going to do is actually fold it in half. And you're going to see that I make a square. And what I'm going to do is the same exact thing I just did with the circle one. That was a square, and I'm going to be making 2 smaller circles, and these are going to be our cheeks. So we're going to follow the same exact thing that we just did. So I'm going to go ahead, cut off all 4 corners, and then we're going to trim. So I made it. It looks like a stop sign now. When you're doing this, as we're cutting, make sure you're holding both pieces of paper because it will start to come apart, and then you might only be cutting one piece. If that happens, that's okay. Just do the same exact thing you were doing. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with mine. So what you do is you're going to open it. Mine's still connected. Yours might be. If it's not, that's fine. All you have to do is you can either pull it like that, and you'll see they come apart, or you can cut it. So I have my 2 cheeks now. I'm going to set those aside. My next thing I'm going to do is I should still have 2 brown rectangles. I'm going to get that very tiny one. And we're going to do the same thing, fold it in half. And this time you're going to see it doesn't make a square, it actually makes a shorter rectangle. But I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to be making the ears, and our ears are going to be oval. So to make an oval, all we're going to do is we take a rectangle, and we're going to do the same thing I did with my circle. I'm going to cut off the corners. And then I'm just going to go around and trim. And you can see mine actually fell apart before I could even take them apart. And you can see if there's any spots that maybe you're like, ooh, that's still pointy, just trim it and make it how you want. Sometimes when we're cutting 2 at once, like I said, the paper moves and you might not get all those spots. So I like to just double check and go back and fix any spots that I don't like. All right, last rectangle. This one's going to be a little different because I'm actually not going to be going all the way around. I'm going to still do my same cuts I've been doing, but only on part of it. We're going to make like the body part of our groundhog, and it's going to be kind of like a little mountain or a hill. And so all I have to do for this one is I'm going to take my rectangle and make sure that it is short and fat. And then I'm going to cut off those 2 top corners. So see that one? I'm going to do that one, and then I want to do this one, so I'm just going to turn this and cut it off. So now it looks like a little house almost. And I'm going to go back and trim these just like I was doing to make them more round. So you can see it's rounder, and I'm going to do it one more time. And there it is. It almost looks like a bowl. Flip it upside down. So I've cut all the brown pieces. I'm going to put all those pieces aside, and next I'm going to do our whites next. So there are 2 white rectangles. Again, one is bigger, one is smaller. I'm going to do our bigger one first. These are the eyeballs. So again, fold it in half. These are going to be the whites of the eyes. You can see it's a rectangle. I am going to be making an oval, and we're going to do the same thing. So holding them together, I'm going to cut off my corners. Then we're going to go around and trim until we don't really see the points anymore. I think I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to open it up because I think mine's still connected. Here it is. Let's pull it apart. So I'm just going to make sure that I don't see any points once they're separated. Pretty good. I'm going to put these aside. So these are my 2 eyeballs. And now I'm going to get my last white rectangle. And this is going to be the teeth. This one's going to be a really easy cut because I'm really keeping it most of the shape that it is. I'm just going to make it a little angled. So I like to do 2 teeth. In case you didn't know, groundhogs have 2 teeth in the front that they just keep growing. And so they usually gnaw on things or eat things to kind of trim them down. Kind of like when you have nails, you might file your nails down. Same thing. So they have really big front teeth. What we're going to do is be making 2 of them, and I'm going to take this rectangle and we're going to fold it in half. You're going to see it makes it a smaller rectangle. And this time, I'm not cutting it in a circle. Like I said, I'm going to keep it most of the shape. What we're going to be doing is making it more of a little bit of an angle on the side, so it's a little bit more of like a trapezoid type of shape. So what we're going to do is I'm going to be cutting from each corner on the bottom up to about a finger space apart on the top. So what you're going to do is I have my folded side. I'm doing my folded side away from me, and I'm going to hold my teeth together, and I'm going to start at this corner. So again, this is the open side. I'm going to start there, and what I'm going to do is cut kind of like a diagonal line up to about a finger space away from the side. So do you see how it kind of made it go in a little bit? It stayed the same down here, but it went in up here. Now I'm going to do the same on the other side. I like to just flip mine over. It's easier for my brain to do it that way. I'm going to do the same exact thing. And if it's not perfect, again, it's fine. So my open side, starting at my corner, and I'm just going to go up and cut all the way through. So now it's an interesting little shape, kind of like a pyramid almost. I'm going to open it up, and if you open it up, it almost looks like a bow. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut on that fold. Now I have 2 teeth shape. I'm going to set our teeth aside. Last, we have our black. There are 3 different blacks. We have a large rectangle, a small rectangle, and then a square. I'm going to save our square for last because our square is the one that is totally different cut. It's a little bit harder, but it's not too hard, but it has a few more steps. We're going to start with our big rectangle. And what we're going to be making is the hole that the groundhog is kind of popping out of, because they usually live in burrows in the ground, holes in the ground. So we're going to make our hole. And what you're going to do is we're just going to be turning it into an oval. So same thing as before, we're going to cut off all 4 corners. And then trim until we don't see all the points. So here is mine. I think I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to set it aside, and we're going to get that itty bitty little rectangle that is black. These are going to be the inside parts of our eyeballs, the black parts. So it's going to be round. I'm going to fold it in half, and you should see that when I fold this rectangle in half, I have a circle or a square now, which means that we're making 2 circles. Again, because we're cutting 2 at once, make sure you're holding on to it just so it doesn't fall apart. And we're going to do the same exact thing. Cut all 4 corners off. And then continue around and trim until we don't have any pointy parts. So mine fell apart while I was cutting, but I do see how when I was going, some sides aren't as smooth as I would like, so I'm just going to fix them quickly. And you can see as I do this, it's very just like itty bitty tiny cuts, barely anything. Okay, so I have 2 inside parts of my eyeballs. Last cut. Again, this is our only one that's very different. I'm going to take the square. This is going to be the nose. So I want it to be kind of rounded on top, but then go kind of at a point at the bottom. It's like a really fat, rounded triangle. To do that, this is how we're going to make it work. I'm going to take my square. I'm going to fold my square in half. And I'm only doing this for 1 cut, and then we're opening it up to do the rest. So I'm going to fold it in half. It doesn't have to be really pressed down fold. I'm going to fold it in half like that. And I am going to, this is very important because if we don't do it this way, you're going to end up with a very different cut. I am going to be taking the folded side, okay? The side that does not open, it is closed. And I'm going to be doing a cut from the corner where it's folded to about halfway on the open side. I'm going to do a diagonal cut. Again, I have to do it going from my bottom corner on the fold up to the open side. If I do it the other way, it's going to make a different shape and it's not going to look like a nose. So with my folded side, okay, get your folded side. Make sure you know where your folded side is. I like to turn it towards me just so I remember. So my folded side is towards my belly. Okay, my open side is away from me. I'm going to take my folded side and I'm going to see this corner, and I like to kind of decide where I'm going to cut before I do it. So I'm going to start with my folded side. Here's my corner and I want to go to about here. And so what I'm going to do is put it down and I kind of angle my scissors to where I want and decide if that's good. I just check it and then I cut. Now when you do it, you should have 2 triangles come off like that. Now I'm going to open it up. Okay, it really looks like a little house now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these corners off like I was going to make a circle. So now I'm going to cut those off like I'm doing a circle, and I have this shape. It almost looks like a diamond, like a real diamond. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to go through and I'm going to just trim all my corners like I was doing before because I want to make it round. The groundhog's nose is not super pointy. It's more rounded. So I'm going to go through now and all the points I'm going to trim. So this part should be very similar to what we were doing. Even your one down here, trim. All right, so now when we look at it, you can see it's definitely more rounded, but I still have some points. So I'm going to go ahead and do it one more time. So I'm pretty happy. And that step you can keep doing until your points are gone. So if you need to go around again, that is fine. It just depends on how much you take off and how close you were to the points. Okay, so now we are going to assemble. Let's gather all our pieces. I'm going to put my scissors away. I don't need those anymore right now. And let's make sure we have all our different pieces that we will need. So we have a black oval. I have 2 black circles. I have a black little nose. I should have 2 white eyeballs, 2 white teeth. We have a brown body. I have a brown head, 2 cheeks, and 2 ears. Let's start by doing our actual groundhog body. So let's gather all those brown pieces again. And we're going to start with the head. And we're going to put the cheeks on. So the cheeks are going to be kind of big. And we're going to put them near the bottom like that. And they'll go like this and they're going to overhang, and that's okay. And then the teeth will be going under like that. It almost looks like a walrus right here. So I'm going to get my glue stick, and you can even overlap the cheeks if you want. An easy way for me to do it is I just put glue on like the bottom half of the circle. And then I'm going to put the cheeks on top. And the nice thing about glue stick is that you can kind of move it before it really sets. Okay, so you can move your cheeks where you would like them. It's nice and round. All right, I think that's good. Now I'm going to put my ears. I like to do it this way so I can see them. And you can decide how far apart you want them. I like mine pretty close. And you can also decide like how much you want to see. Do you want them really sticking out? Do you want it really tiny? It is totally up to you how you would like that. An easy way to do it is, so this way you can see, is you put glue on the bottom part and then slide it under to where you want and then press. And then you can do the same thing on this one. Slide it under. Go on it. My next step I'm going to do are the eyes. So the eyes are going to be bigger to make him just look a little cuter. And you can decide where you want the little pupils to go. So it could be looking up, it could be right in the middle, it could be looking down. It really is up to you. Where you put the eyes and the pupils, it will change the expression it has. So you can play around. I am going to, I usually do it like this. I think I'm going to do mine looking up. So all you do is put, once you figure out where you want it, just put a little bit of glue and press it down. I have not glued this down yet. The other way you can do it is you could also glue your white pieces down first and then put the black pieces on. I did it opposite. So you can also have had students do it like that where it looks dizzy. It's up to you. It's your groundhog. So our next step is deciding where you want the eyeballs to go. So you guys can see if I do it like this, it kind of changes. If I have it looking that way, it will change how it looks. If I do it this way, it changes how it looks. Again, to your groundhog, you do it how you would like. You can even have them overlap a little bit, which I think I'm going to have that happen. I don't want them to look at it. I do want to, I'm going to trim this really fast. It's not as oval as I would like. A little bit. I'm going to trim that one too. So mine had a little bit more of an egg shape, so all I'm going to do is just same thing. I'm going to cut just straight lines, but then trim off. So I'm gonna look like a little scared, I guess. It's fine. Maybe he's nervous about having to protect the weather. Okay, so put that down. My next step, I'm going to add his nose, which makes him so cute. And we are going to, you can decide, this is also another thing, you can decide, do you want it higher, do you want it lower? I think I'm going to do mine a little bit lower. And I just put the glue on the back and then press it down. And then my last step before I put the head on the body is I'm going to be doing the teeth. So for the teeth, you can either do the teeth where it goes under the cheeks like that. So I'm just lifting the cheeks up a little bit and you can stick them under. Or the other thing that I like to do is I just flip it over like this and I glue it on the back side. But you can also place it on the front. Figure out where you want them before you glue. So I like my teeth to overlap a little bit and kind of go at an angle. So you can also do it where it has some gap in between, because a real groundhog does have a gap in between its teeth. So your groundhog, you get to decide how you want to do it. And then I like to do it like my ears, where I put glue up here and I can kind of slide it in under and then press. And the nice thing is like my glue will dry clear, so it's like it never even happened. And I'll do mine like that. So I'm going to put this one. So silly. My last step I'm going to do is put the head on the body. So the body, so it looks like he's popping out of the hole or his burrow. And again, this can be, you could do it so he's really tall, he's sticking his head up. You can do it, you see how if I do this, it makes him look like he's crouching and he's a little bit fatter. So it depends where you would like his head and his body to be. It's completely up to you. I'm gonna put glue right up here, straight across, and I'm gonna tilt his head a little bit too. I'm gonna press it down. When you have something like this that has a lot of glued pieces, a nice thing to do is if you flip it over, and you can see there's not as many pieces for me to get caught on, but flip it over and just press it down to really make it stick. So there's the front of my groundhog. And here is the last piece I can do. There are different ways you can do this. So I like to make it look like he is popping out of his little burrow, right? And so I have done it before where I actually cut a hole and he literally pops out. Or I can show you another way to do it, which is I'm going to kind of do the same thing. So if you want to actually make the hole that he pops out of, what you're going to do is take our oval and we're going to fold it in half. And you'll see that my oval was not perfect and it doesn't line up evenly, and that's fine. And what I do then is I put my groundhog on it. Okay, like this. And with a pencil, I mark a line where my groundhog would be. And I do it on both sides. All right, so then what I do is I very carefully cut just a little snip on both of those, and you open it back up. And when you do that, what happens is, I'm going to show you with my pencil, you make like a little hole on both sides, and what you can do is with your scissors, you just very carefully, see there's my two holes, cut along that folded line, and then you can stick your groundhog in and it will actually fit perfectly. If you're like, I don't think I can do that, that seems like a lot. What you're going to do is just flip over your flip over your hole, or choose one side of our hole. And what you can do is, so we want it to kind of go around him. You can either you could just glue it on like this if you want. I like to do it though where the black kind of covers the bottom part of this. And so what you can do is decide how far in the hole you would like him. And you can trace a line like this. And you're going to just trace the outside of him like that. Okay. And those pencil lines, I'm going to cut. And then I forgot to trace the bottom one. Like that. And cut a line. So now I cut those out, and when I glue it down, it's going to look like he's coming out of his hole. So are we ready? I'm going to get my paper. So I do have a short piece of paper, so I'll show you how you can make this without doing the writing. You're going to grab our paper, and you're going to put your groundhog where you would like him. And I like to put it down before I glue. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue my groundhog first. Then I'm going to glue down his little hole. And like I said, I like to make it go over him a little bit, so I'm actually overlapping him just a little tiny itty bitty bit. Not much. And this one's going to be a little bit harder just because it has those tiny pieces. Should press it all down. Okay. And then I'm going to flip it over. And again, press it down just so it really sticks. And then turn it back over. And we have our groundhog. So again, with the hole, if you want, you can just put him straight on top. It'll be fine too. If you want to do that, but you want it to look like he's more popping out, but another thing you can do is just trim the little corners down here so it looks a little bit rounder, or you can just put it on. It's totally up to you. You could also do it where we have our writing. So if you're going to do our information and our facts, you're going to want that bigger piece of paper. You can see I even have 2 different color groundhogs. You can do whatever color brown you would like. They are usually brown. And hopefully you enjoyed making our groundhogs. Don't forget to go ahead and read those books and learn about the groundhog. It's such a funny little creature, and the tradition is really fun. And I hope you guys enjoy your Groundhog Day. We enjoyed our groundhog craft. Don't forget to follow along when we do some more crafts and different fun art projects.